evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Today I'm going to be going over the Elemental Hero / Masked Hero deck profile. Really fun. And if you guys don't believe it, there is a link in the description. It is a game of me playing the Elemental Hero deck, laying down the law. In this specific video, I'm going to be focusing more on, I want to say more like an anti-meta-like feel. But if you guys have ever played Little City, it's going to be more of that thing, abusing Miracle Fusion to actually summon monsters that your opponent doesn't want to get over. If they do get over Dark Law and that card in tandem, it's probably not going to be good for your opponent. This deck is extremely interesting, but I wanted to say it is not the final version, nor is it probably the version that I would have loved to play. Now, let me rewind that back. The version that I am going to be trying out, which if it doesn't work, I'll obviously be coming back to this, is just a practically pretty bland, so you guys wouldn't want to see that anyways. It was basically the Star Seraph hero deck, and I'll explain that later. But for the deck profile, we're going to be running 3 copies of Elemental Hero Shadow Mist, 3 copies of Elemental Hero Bubble Man, 2 copies of Elemental Hero Blaze Man. For the people that just annoyed the living daylights out of me, keep on asking me about how many copies do I play. I did not know until now, and I feel 2 is superior. 2 copies of Maxi, 1 copy of Goblindenberg, and 1 copy of Elemental Hero Neos Alias. Now, I will go into detail why I play certain cards at the end of me showing you guys the deck, so don't exit out too soon. 3 copies of Reinforcement of the Army, 3 copies of Mass Change, 3 copies of Miracle Fusion, 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, 1 copy of Polymerization, really want to talk about that card, 1 copy of Book of Moon, and 1 copy of Raigeki. As for traps, we're going to be running 3 Fiendish Chain, 3 Call It Hunted, 2 Mirror Force, 2 Mind Crush, Compulse, Vanities, Bottomless, and Ring of Destruction. This deck is very interesting. Low monster count, high spell and trap count. That's exactly how I would think any Elemental Hero player would want it. First, let's talk about Elemental Hero 420 Blaze It. He is a godsend to the deck. As you can see, I'm not running Summoner Monks. I'm only running 1 copy of Goblindenberg. Why? Because I rely more heavily on Elemental Hero Blaze Man, dumping my mass or my Elemental Hero Shadow Mist, and then reviving it or fusing with it, or already having some way to utilize the deck. I'm not extremely focused on just Mass Change, but making Mass Change is not hard at all. Reinforcement of the Army, if I do draw Elemental Hero Shadow Mist into the Goblindenberg, and guess what? Now we have the Shadow Mist play. I was initially playing 2 Goblindenberg, and I probably would, like I said, the Polymerization is almost a wild card in there. You could drop the Polymerization for the Goblindenberg, which is, I mean, it's just a lot of really interesting. 3 copies of Elemental Hero Bubble Man only proves my point that, I mean, even with Blaze Man, it's just amazing. You can dump Blaze Man or Bubble Man with Blaze Man's effect. He becomes water. Mash change him into an acid, and then Miracle Fusion to an absolute 0. Because Elemental Hero Blaze Man does set up your graveyard really well, I believe that Miracle Fusion is just a prime target for you being able to activate cards. That actually comes in tandem to why I am running Elemental Hero Neos Alias. To be honest with you, I'd probably drop him for Elemental Hero Voltic now that I think about it. Voltic is just a superior card in this essence. I can mass change Voltic into a Nova, a Mass Hero Nova, just like I can mass change Neos Alias. But the trick is, since I'm running 3 Miracle Fusions, if I inflict damage with that Voltic, I can special summon one of my banished Elemental Heroes. Hint, hint, if I banish Shadow Mist, I can special summon again and search a Mass Change. I thought that was actually pretty neat, so more than likely I will be testing out Voltic. I don't think that I would be keeping Elemental Hero Neos Alias over Voltic in it, just because I don't need the 1900 attack, and Voltic actually has an effect that would, in theory, benefit the Elemental Hero deck. Just been playtesting with this deck so much. That's just my thoughts. Maxi, I feel, should be relevant in any deck that is not meta, especially if you have such a good Necros matchup like this deck does. Special summoning Dark Law on your first turn is pretty hard, so I've already addressed Necros in this deck. I feel like I should address Burning Abyss, Shadow, Star Seraph, just anything that is not Necros in this deck, just because it already has a really solid Necros deck matchup. And Maxi is not bad against Necros either, but it's just really good against decks that need to overextend, need to special summon so many times, and allows us to get into our key combo pieces. More often than not, Maxi will get you enough cards to just be able to blow your opponent out of the water if they decide to go off under Maxi. For spells, Reinforcement is just pivotal, no emergency call, don't need it. Out of the games that I did playtest, I never ran into the me not having the Elemental Hero cards or the cards that I needed, even with just 3 reinforcement or army and I believe 10 playable monsters. So it was like, whatever, I don't really need it. Just really, really good. Mass change, obvious. Mass change is mass change. Miracle Fusion is exactly what I'm saying. I can morph Alias or would be Voltic into a Shining. Shining is still really good this format. Blazeman because Nova Master. Elemental Hero Bubbleman becomes Absolute Zero, which is really, really good this format. And unfortunately, Shadow Mist doesn't have a great Elemental Hero. He has Elemental Hero Esciardo. I like to, he's just cool. I mean, it's decent. But still, all the other cards have amazing Elemental Hero monsters to fusion to with Miracle Fusion. And if I were to be playing Voltic, which I'm more than likely going to switch, I'm even convincing myself more and more the times I keep on talking about Voltic, I could be special summoning them to my side of the field. All I have to do is clear my opponent's board. Not hard to do. Polymerization is here because it's very interesting. I was running Polymerization when I was running Mass Chain second and a little bit more monsters. The reasoning behind that is because I would add Polymerization to my hand from Blazeman and I would use it for food for Mass Change second and it'd be fine. When I was playtesting, there was times where I actually did use Polymerization to like fuse and stuff, and it wasn't that bad. But I mean, I might wind up dropping it for something else. I just thought it was really interesting tech. If you would, I would actually call it a filler card. You can drop it for a trap card, you can drop it for a monster card, you can practically drop it for whatever you want it to. For the traps, 3 Fiendish Chain, I feel like that's almost pivotal in any deck right now. Effect negation is key to winning games once again in this format. 3 Call It 100. Obviously, I can't compensate for the Summoner Monk and all that other crap. I really don't think Summoner Monk is the route to go, though Crush card is very nice to run in here. I mean, you could drop a Compulse for a Crush card, run 2 Summoner Monks, Blazeman. You have enough targets to make Crush card live, and it's very fun. But Call It 100 is really good for abusing that Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. If you do not draw a Mass Change, which, I mean, come on, it's not that hard not to draw the last chains. Or if you can't special summon Shadow Mist by some other effect, like I said, if you drop the Poly for Goblinberg, your ratios are actually back on track. You Call It 100 Shadow Mist, and you're more than dandy. You're very good. The reason why I only run 1 Goblinberg is because, like, when I played, I only resolved 1. But seeing consistency issues, if you guys would ever have that, 2 Goblinberg would be premier. Mirror Force, Forca dell'Asfalto is amazing. I think the biggest thing I want to stress about Forca dell'Asfalto is that it has almost no weaknesses in here. Let's say you have Dark Claw. I mean, obviously, if I'm not attacking with Dark Claw, it's in defense. Defense or attack, it doesn't matter. And my Shadow opponent or my Burning Abyss opponent would make a card to get over my Dark Claw. Well, Mirror Force kind of banishes those targets. I mean, unless it's Winda, they're still going to be in it for it if Dark Claw is on the field. Overall, Mirror Force is just a really good card in increasing in popularity. Mind Crush, I feel, should be ran in 2s in almost every deck that wants to be competitive. There's too many things that search, and Necros is just like... It's just like basically free hit Necros with that card, especially if you can resolve it right when they activate their ritual spells. Compose, Vanities, Emptiness, and Ring of Destruction. There's not much else to talk about. Just really solid cards. But I mean, if you guys want Crush card, drop the Compulsory Evacuation Device. You can run your Summoner Monks and your Elemental Hero 420 Blazits, and then you'll have you'll have 7 targets for Crush card. That's like godsend. That's amazing. Now let's get on to the extra deck. Alright guys, the extra deck is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. To be honest with you, I should be running a Nova in here, but I mean, you could probably get away. You can get away with not playing it. I mean, you don't really summon Nova that much, even though it is a great card. For the extra deck, we're going to run 2 copies of Dark Claw. I mean, standard. I wouldn't run 3. I don't see a need to run 3. More often than not, you bring them out twice, you win. 2 copies of Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. Now, I run 3 copies of Bubbleman and 3 copies of Miracle Fusion, so I figured that Absolute Zero was my premier target, especially if I can summon Absolute Zero with Dark Claw on the field. It's almost the exact same thing as Mirror Force. When Absolute Zero leaves the field, all of my opponent's monsters are banished. Too good to give up. 1 copy of Anki. I fell in love with this card, and then I fell out of love with this card. It does help me search into my extra Mask Hero cards, something that I don't have much in this deck, but then at the same time, it's more often than not, I just be wanting to summon a Dark Claw. Granted, I can morph a Dark Claw into him, which is another good thing, but I mean, I can morph a Dark Claw into another Dark Claw if I wanted to go for game in that aspect. It doesn't work good with Dark Claw on the field. I had to find that out the hard way, but it's a pretty decent card. 1 copy of Mask Hero Asset. I actually was running 2 for quite some time. I just never went into it twice. If I went into it once, provided that it went uninterrupted, and if you're playing heroes right, you should play for it not to go uninterrupted. You win the game, or you just cripple your opponent's back row. I just never have needed to. One copy of Elemental Hero Nova Master, that's obvious. Works really good with Dark Claw on the field. I mean, just a very great card. One copy of Elemental Hero Shining, that's obvious as well. Used to be the best element, or the second best Elemental Hero fusion monster that we have. Now we just have so many options. One copy of Vapor. Vapor is actually good when you're going against cards like your opponent. You know your opponent's running Mirror Force, or back row destruction isn't applicable in your opponent's deck, which is why everybody is only playing 2 Mystical Space Typhoon. So Vapor is just that other target. And then one copy of Escarada. If I were to take out a card for the Nova, that's a tough question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, I would have to take out a card. I mean, it's really a toss-up. Maybe the Anki. You could probably get away with, one copy of Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, just because I don't it's really hard to draw all 3 of your Miracle Fusions and then need to blow up your opponent's field more than once with Raigeki and then more than once with Absolute Zero. So I guess you could get away with that. It's ultimately up to you guys. For the X-Seeds, one copy of Yagar Cowboy, one Castell, one Honor Arc, one Excited, and I don't even know why I'm playing this card. This should actually have been Excalibur. That's pretty much it. Now on to the combos. Alright guys, there's quite a few combos in this deck. And I don't think I have enough time to explain them all. Actually, I might have enough time to explain them all. This combo it seems pretty complicated. It seems like a little 3-card combo that you really need to get off, but it doesn't really require that much of a setup, because this deck basically searches out the wazoo and gets you all of the key component pieces that you need, either to your hand or etc or etc or whatever. Basically, in this combo, you would need Elemental Hero 420 Blaze It, a copy of Mass Change, and a Miracle Fusion. Mass Change is extremely searchable. Blaze Man is extremely searchable. So really, the only card you really need to draw into is your Miracle Change, which Maxi will kind of probably give it to you if you're not already deck thinning and draw it like regularly. So basically, you would summon Elemental Hero 420 Blaze It, and you would also need an Elemental Hero monster in the graveyard. It doesn't really matter which one. We'll just say Alias is in our graveyard. So we'll normal summon Elemental Hero Blazeman, and we'll pass on the Polymerization effect. And then we'll activate his effect to send Elemental Hero monster from our deck to the graveyard. We'll send Elemental Hero Bubbleman, and he becomes a water monster. Next, we'll activate Mass Change, and we'll morph Elemental Hero Blazeman. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't need an extra Elemental Hero. My apologies. And we'll morph Elemental Hero Blazeman into Mass Hero Acid. Acid will trigger and destroy all of our opponent's cards, and then we'll activate Miracle Fusion. Miracle Fusion will banish the Blazeman and the Bubbleman from our graveyard, so put that in our banish zone or whatever, and then we will be able to special summon Absolute Zero. Now, Absolute Zero Mass Hero Acid is normally a really, really good combo. Another really good combo is actually abusing your Mass Heroes to their fullest extent. Let's say we already Miracle Fusion for Absolute Zero. We can actually Mass Change our Absolute Zero for Acid, and that's obviously our Raigeki Harpy's Feather Duster right there. We'd be able to destroy both of our opponent's spells and our opponent's monsters as well. Pretty sure there's a lot of other combos. Oh, the Goblinberg combo. Really only a 2-card combo. Goblinberg and Shadow Mist. You normal summon Goblinberg. Goblinberg's effect activates. From there, you get the special summon Shadow Mist. Goblinberg switches to defense, but Shadow Mist effect activates. And then from there, you'll activate the Mass Change. Now, unless you really need to, you do not want to Mass Change on the turn you special summon Shadow Mist, because you will not gain the full abilities. More often than not, you'll set the Mass Change, wait till your opponent's turn. You can either do it during the draw phase, depending on if you know what they play. You morph the Shadow Mist into a Dark Claw, and then you get a free search. Another great combo, man, like I'm saying, there's so many. Shadow Mist plus Bubbleman is really good. You would normally, since you have so many cards in your hand, or I'm sorry, spells and traps in your hand, you can set them all, special summon Bubbleman, and then you can overlay into any of your rank 4s. Let's say generally it's getting over an opponent's card threat. So we'll go into Castell. We'll activate Castell's effect, and we'll pitch these two. His effect will activate, which searches as any card. More than often than not, you're going to want to search Blazeman again, because he builds up your hand advantage again. And then from there, like I said, we can do it again. Miracle Fusion, banishing both of these guys from the graveyard to special summon Absolute Zero. Just another reason why we run so many copies of Absolute Zero, because it is so easy to make boards like this with Miracle Fusion. Pretty sure there's another combo I can show you at the very least before I wrap this up. The last one really isn't really much of a combo to it. It's just something that you guys should know. Any of your elemental heroes, you can, or any of your masked heroes, you can morph them into different heroes. So for example, I can morph acid into a vapor, or vapor into an acid. It really doesn't matter, vice versa. I can morph Dark Law into Anki, and then vice versa. And it really only requires match change. That's the flexibility that this deck has, as opposed to a lot of other decks that run match change too, because the monster's level has to be higher. In this build, we can just morph Dark Law into another Dark Law and attack for extra damage. We can morph into Anki. Same thing for Vapor. I mean, the exact same thing can be said for Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, which is why we have that, and Elemental Hero Esciardo, which is why we have that as well. There's like so many like combos in this deck. I just wanted to show you guys a few of them. You'll really pick them up as you guys start to play. But thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.